In this video, I will be showing you how to put together all 28 of your white balance images into one canvas on Photoshop. Let's get started. So I've got all 28 of my images here. I've gone through and checked. I actually have 29, you can see right there, but I've got one extra one where I was trying to figure out the exposure. Actually, I wasn't trying to figure out the exposure. Clayton was, and he did a great job. So one thing I do want to go through and make is go through and make sure I got the correct white balance for all 4 of my locations. I'm going to do that by using this little area right here in Bridge. It's going to tell me what white balance I use. You can see this right here says AWB, so I know that this one was taken with auto white balance. This next image was clearly taken with incandescent or tungsten because that's a light bulb. This is the only confusing one. I don't know why they chose a person to represent fluorescent lights. I do not understand that. But if you see this little dude right there, that means fluorescent. This is obviously sunny. This is flash. This is cloudy. And this is shade. So I would go through all 28 of my images and make sure I've got all 7 of the different white balances in each location. And if I do, I'm ready to go. And I'm ready to put these all together in Photoshop. So the first thing I need to do is take a glance at my images and decide, did I shoot horizontally or did I shoot vertically? Now all of these images were taken horizontally, so that is going to affect the size that I make my canvas in Photoshop. If some of your images were vertical, then that's also going to make a difference. So we are going to crop these to be 1.5 inches wide by 1 inch tall. And then we're going to make 4 rows with 7 images in them. So they're going to be 7 images wide by 4 images tall with a little bit of space in between for text. So these are horizontal, which means they're going to be 1.5 inches wide and 1 inch tall. So I need to go into Photoshop and go to File, New. And I'm going to make sure this right here is on inches. And then I got to think, okay, I got to go 7 images wide, and each image is 1.5 inches wide. So I'm going to make this 7 times 1.5 is 10.5. I'm going to make this 10.5 inches wide. Now, if my images were vertical rather than horizontal, then I'm going to crop these to be 1 inch wide by 1.5 inches tall. So my canvas is only going to be 7 inches wide because 7 times 1 is 7. Duh. But I'm going to go 10.5, and now let's go back into Bridge. Because mine are horizontal, they're only going to be 1 inch tall. So I'm going to have 4 rows that are 1 inch tall each. So that's 4 times 1 is 4. And I'm going to leave a little bit of space in between each one for text. So let's just call it 6 for my height. Again, if these were vertical rather than horizontal, these would be 1.5 inches tall. And 4 times 1.5 is 6. Leave a little bit of extra space for text and maybe do 8. So if I had shot vertically rather than horizontally, I would do 7 by 8. But I didn't, so I'm going to do 10.5 by 6. Making sure my resolution right here is on 72 pixels per inch. And I'm going to go ahead and press OK. Alright, now that I got my canvas set up in Photoshop, it's time to start putting these photos in there. So let's just go one at a time. I'm going to start with my first one. I'm going to double click on, and that will open it up in Photoshop. I'm going to grab my crop tool over here. Keyboard shortcut for that is C. And again, these are horizontal, so I'm going to put 1.5 inches for the top width at the top. For the height, I'm going to put 1 inch, and for the resolution, I'm going to put 72 pixels per inch. Super important that we get this right. If I had set my resolution to 300 over here, pixels per inch, then I would have had to make sure when I choose my crop tool, I choose 300. But I didn't. I chose 72, so I'm going to go with that. Let me get all this stuff out of the way. And here we go. I'm going to start up here in the top left-hand corner. I'm just going to click and drag down towards the bottom right-hand corner and press Enter. And you can see that made my image significantly smaller. That's okay. That's what I wanted to happen. Now I'm going to grab the Move tool right here, and I'm going to click and drag this over to this other tab. Hold it there for just a second. It's going to switch. I'm going to come down here and let go. I'm going to go ahead and just plop that image right there in the top left-hand corner. Do yourself a huge favor, and if you haven't checked this box right here that says Auto Select, and change this right here to Layer, go ahead and do that right now. That's going to make a huge difference on your ability to do this effectively. I'm going to go back here. I'm now done with this image, so I'm going to close it. And then I'm going to open up my next image. Okay, with my next image open in Photoshop, I'm going to do the exact same thing. Grab the crop tool, top left-hand corner, drag down to the bottom right-hand corner, press enter, move tool, click and drag this over, hold it there for just a second, come down here and drop it. I'm going to take the time right now to line these up, get it lined up there in the corner. Come back to this one and close it. Photoshop wants to know if I want to save it. I do not, so I'm just going to press no. And then I'm just going to keep going until I have done this for all 28 of my images. Open, crop, move tool, drag it over, drop it in, move it into place, close this one. Make sure that you stay in order. Always make sure we're going auto, incandescent, fluorescent, sunny, flash, cloudy, shade. Do not get them out of order, or that's going to your finished product is going to look terrible. So I will pick up this video when I am done putting them all in. Okay, I got all 28 of my images in here. Now all I have to do is add some text, and I'm good to go. Fortunately, this is probably the easiest part of it all. I'm just going to grab my text tool, which is hanging out right here. Keyboard shortcut on that is T, and with that selected, I'm going to come up to the top here. Here's where I would choose a font. Choose a nice, simple font. You don't need anything fancy. In fact, try to pick something that's easy to read. Don't do anything that's all squirrely and scrolly and all that stuff. In fact, a nice, very easy to read font is this Bell Gothic standard right here, but certainly don't have to use that one. So I'm going to set that font. I'm going to come down here. I know that 72 is way too big. Let's try like 14. I want it to be aligned to the left, so I'm going to click on that button right here, and I want my text to be black, so I'll click on that color picker and bring this down here and put that right there. And I'm just going to click right over here on the left, and right here I'm going to type the word auto. Let's kind of move that before I do anything. I'm going to move it by moving my cursor away from the text. See how it turns into the move tool? Click and drag it over, and once I get this first one set, I just want that to be kind of centered under her. And I'm just going to hold down the space bar, come over here and do incandescent. Check it to make sure it's centered right. It's pretty good. And come here, do fluorescent. Fluorescent. Not quite centered there, so I'll come back here, space it out a couple times. Let's come under here and do sun. Space bar over. Flash. Space bar over. Cloudy. And shade. Now, if I haven't told you this yet, the easiest way to tell Photoshop that you're done typing is to press the Enter key way over by the numbers. Don't press the one by the letters, because if you do that, all that does is move you to the next line of text. But if you press the Enter key way over by the numbers, that tells Photoshop I'm done typing. And you can see in my layers palette over here, I have a nice text layer. See how it looks different from my other 28 layers. Well, I don't need to retype this every time. In fact, what I'm going to do is just grab my Move tool. I'm going to put it right over my text. I'm going to press and hold the Alt key. Hold down Alt and then click and drag, and that's going to duplicate the layer for me. You may need to let go and use the arrow keys to kind of move it around to get it just right. Hold down Alt again, click and drag. Let go of Alt, let go of the mouse, use the arrow keys to get it right where you want it. Then Alt and click and drag one more time. And get that text just like there. Now, we're just going to go to File, Save. It's a really good idea to save this as a PSD. Make sure you do that. So I'm here in my folder. I'm going to save this as white balance. Making sure I save this as a PSD. The reason why is if I save this as a PSD, all my layers, all of these are going to be saved. And let's say you turn it in and then you realize you've got 2 of these out of order, or 2 or 3 of them out of order, and that affects your grade. Well, if you save it as a PSD, you can come in and just move these around super quickly. If you save this as a JPEG, you'll see all my layers go away when I save it as a JPEG. And then if you have some out of order, you have no choice but to start over. So first I'm going to save it as a PSD. Then I'll go to File, Save As, and this time I'm just going to change it to a JPEG and save that. Again, I'm calling it white balance. And then I would upload this to Flickr, that JPEG, and turn it in on Canvas, and you are done.